Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchy Dave. Today I'm joined by this nerd. Oh no, it's weird. This
Ner-
nerd.
Nerdoc is
Summers.
dead.
It's like, where's
Nerdoc
Waldo,
is
but with
dead. How are you
tails.
doing this? How are you doing this final level evening, sir?
I'm doing excellent.
That
If
is
I was
great.
any better, I'd be twins.
Oh my.
That's right, twins. So
So
tonight we're
great.
talking about Pestilence, the first horseman of the apocalypse. Well, not specifically, but it could be. Could be.
Well, that is the general vein of where this topic came from. We've done war, we've done death. Last week we talked about famine, so it was only kind of natural that we rounded out with pestilence.
Yeah, so the thing about famine was a little tricky, right? We had to
Hmm.
flex a little bit and work a little harder to come up with stuff, and I think we did an all right job.
Sure.
But pestilence, when you start digging into pestilence, right?
Hmm.
In depend, you could, if you're looking at it, depending on how you want to look at it. You can look at it just strictly like what its definition is. It just means contagious disease. It's nasty all by itself. But if you want to like kind of encompass the biblical meaning to it, it expands it a little bit to natural disasters. Um, Not that I'm particularly religious, folks, but also, not only can you look at it that way. I feel like there's a lot of monsters in D&D that have the ability to give you a disease. So I
Yeah,
feel like you
I
can look at it that way too.
I didn't look at specifically with diseases, but I went and pulled up Pestilence over on D&D Beyond, and to me there were three things that stood out. First and foremost, the Catoblepus. Um, where does it say it here? It's got a blighted territory. Catoblepus's nature as a creature of disease and decay brings out similar characteristics in the creature's swampy habitat. Such a wetland becomes a gloomy, tangled, and more fetid than it was before. Beneficial qualities of environments such as healing herbs and clean water become degraded, and swamp gases take on a hint of the Catoblepus's foul nature. Animals in the area become more aggressive and liable to be diseased. Degenerate creatures are likely to take up residence near Catoblepus's territory as those are seeking to avoid notice. Yeah, it was like, holy crap, could you get, more of an iconic aspect of, pestilence than this?
Yeah, so like that's very cool, and that's a very thematic, right? As and like if you wanted to make pestilence, like if you wanted to just be like, I want to include that particular nasty bit of business, as a creature, like it just sounds like it would probably either have that ability or maybe the catoblepus would be its pet.
Yeah, and then if you want to seriously dial up, because I mean the Catoblepus, is a nice solid challenge five. It's got a death ray ability, so like it's seriously got the ability to bring the pain. But if challenge five ain't good enough for you, I'll ratchet it up straight to the Oinoloth, which is a Yugoloth. So like you got it in the realm of not the lawful evils and the chaotic evils, but they're in that neutral. And literally one of its bonus action is the bringer of plagues. And this thing just has the ability to recharge on a 5 to 6. It blights the area in 30-foot radius sphere. The blight lasts for 24 hours. Any creature in that area uh, has to make a con save, or it takes poison damage and is poisoned. Poisoned creatures can't regain hit points. It's just nasty. On a failed save, their maximum hit point is reduced by another further die 10. And if the target dies, if its hit point is, and the target dies if its hit point is maximum is reduced to 0. So it's crazy.
Yeah, so like there, and honestly, had you search diseases instead or disease
Mm-hmm.
instead at D&D Beyond, one of the things that'll come up is there is a ton of monsters,
Oh yeah.
easily a dozen or more, and a bunch of them. Not only that, they just offer up their own specific types of disease.
Right.
And then like if you look at the contagion spell, that lists one, two, three, four, five more diseases. Felt fever is one of them, and several monsters have that.
Right.
But you have flesh rot, mind fire, seizure, and slimy doom. Some of them are pretty
Uh,
vicious. The
and you
DMG has a couple diseases, sample diseases, site rot, sewer plague, and cackle fever. Right, so they're all things you could introduce. But I kind of man, I wish I could remember the name of the villain. I think it was just like the sorcerer or something like that. But it was actually when I used to read comic books, Alpha Flight, um, one of their villains that kind of popped up, and like his thing was pestilence, and I kind of think back to that, like he would use swarms of flies and maggots, and the ability to accelerate an already existing disease in someone. It's
mhm.
actually kind of because when that comic books came out, it was like it's kind of interesting. Like they had one of the first like openly or one of the first gay superheroes, and they also had that particular character suffer from HIV, and you found that out because like this particular villain accelerated that disease in them
Right.
and like brought that storyline to the forefront. But like I think about that and the way you could introduce this into your game is by using swarms of maggots and flies, insect plague, and all these other creatures that are associated with disease. Rats. There's if you just take a look at all the creatures that naturally have the ability to inflict disease, I feel like they'd all be harbingers for this more powerful entity. Whether you decide to make it a devil, a demon, something else, uh, or even even a god, right? There's a lot more room to build up to that.
Sure. And you've got the ability to literally take anything that exists and go ahead and put a disease on it. And if it's got, some kind of contact or injury, when they interact with it, then you've got it. So it's one of those things very easy to just let me add this layer. Now, yeah,
Yeah,
I 100% agree with you that you would use insects and rats and things that fall in the general overarching vermin. That naturally that would be there, and that would be a great place to start. But then when all of a sudden it's starting to affect other things that aren't in that vermin category, then players might, you know, finally get to raise that eyebrow and be like, wait a second, I think there's more to this than we originally thought.
yeah. I mean, there's so many different ways you could kind of introduce it. Like, you know, you could go full on dirty bomb, where like the players rescue missing townsfolk or villagers, and some of them are sick when they rescue them, right? But it turns out like they've been infected with one of these nasty viruses, one of these diseases, and maybe the players inadvertently bring them back to the rest of the community. And this could be part of a overarching plot of the villain, right? They meant for them to be freed and sent back,
Right.
as their carriers for whatever it is, whatever their evil plot is.
Well, I mean that's the great part, having the players be the unwitting dupes.
But also it could give them an opportunity to shine too, because I am definitely not a fan of trying to create gotcha moments for the players.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is if like the players notice that they're sick and they take an interest into it, and they try and do something, they're like, oh, I want to use medicine checks, or I'm going to cast detect disease on them, or something else. They could actually circumvent the problem and keep it from happening. Uh, and then that's just another reason why the villain will hate them even more for
Yeah,
thwarting
I
that
mean,
first attempt.
there's always methods to adapt and overcome and what have you. And like I wasn't trying to make a force the situation kind of thing. That's not my particular style
Well,
either.
well, I was speaking more for the general audience
Audience,
than you
sure, yeah,
specifically.
oh yeah,
Well, because then also like we've both played with those GMs, right? Who are like, I'm going to make this thing happen no matter what,
yeah.
you know. And oh, Daryl Brooks, you're out of here because you seem to be a scumbag. Uh,
While Dave is taking care of admin
speaking of
duties,
plague and pestilence,
I will throw out that I apologize that we didn't have our game Friday night. If you were one of those looking for the latest episode of Untraditionally Arcane, we had some of our own illness to deal with. We had a pet who died. We had some family members get injured, and we have another person who was so sick that they couldn't talk. And I was like, well, I don't feel it's right to just kind of proceed with two players. So we decided we were gonna call it off, and we'll take an extended break, and we'll come back to some more untraditionally arcane in January. It is what it is. It sucks when it happens, but you got to make do.
yeah, sometimes you just gotta make do. Do you guys have you guys figured out when you're gonna reschedule for?
Uh, we haven't looked at January schedule just yet, but hopefully soon.
Um,
We got a issue to deal with.
yeah, it just appears to be another one of those nights where they're coming out of the woodwork. So we're banning and reporting. Sorry,
Yeah,
folks.
yeah, no worries. We gotta deal with what we gotta deal with. And it looks like, someone's trying to enact some pestilence on us.
Yeah.
So off topic, do we have any suggestions for a multi-class dwarf cleric, please? So I'm playing a very multi-class dwarf cleric.
Yeah. Not the word domain, no. You went forge.
Yeah, I'm a forged domain.
Another very martial domain.
Yeah. So cleric mixes well with, any of the martial things. I would not recommend anything that's a spellcaster to go heavy into barbarian, but I am playing a barbarian paladin cleric fighter.
Well, those cleric levels just give you more smite slots.
Indeed, they in fact do. And
And
you can
you
rage
can
and smite
smite
at the
while you're
same time.
raging.
And that is actually what, like, we did a character build for the barbarian paladin, the rage smiter, and that was where I drew the inspiration from for my character. Now there wound up being some changes and some storyline things happened, and then all hell broke loose when I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go in this direction, and then I'm gonna go in that direction.
Yeah. Kind of speaking to cleric and also the topic, like if you wanted to do something, and we've been asked this question probably a bunch of times over the years anyway, about making the four horsemen of apocalypse,
Mhm.
in D&D. So like you could make cleric NPC stat blocks and use them as the champions, and maybe like they're the mid-tier boss before you actually get to the actual horsemen of apocalypse,
Mhm.
which war and death are pretty much covered.
Yes,
You
you
know,
would just have to figure out what what is famine and what is pestilence.
yeah, but I also feel like there's some fun wiggle room in there, like having pestilence be able to summon swarms of insects, you know,
Yeah.
especially ones that could potentially inflict disease upon the players.
So with the uh
Hit them with the swarm of swarm of rats would work, but I feel like I don't know if it's any more effective, but it's definitely grosser as the swarm of maggots.
yeah. So what is the mushroom cleric? I feel that one kind of fits a little bit with pestilence.
I think you're thinking of druid.
Oh, the spore druid, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it kind of does a little bit. It could be, I guess. It's a little more poisony, but I think you could definitely take it down a disease route, but also you get access to contagion as a druid. You get access to blight as a druid. You get access to the cantrip infestation as a druid.
Right.
So all of those definitely work.
So I would do a spore druid for pestilence. And where would you go famine?
Famine.
I'm not seeing anything in the cleric domains that really, trick me out.
Yeah, I probably would. I would probably just create a new stat block and theme it towards that. Give them cool abilities like something called a hunger pangs or something like that. Where you basically just do damage to them as you deplete all their stored energy
Sure.
or rack them with hunger pain. Maybe it's not even a damaging effect, more of a stunning or debilitating effect.
Would you, since like you mentioned like a store of resources, would you do things that would sap their hit dice?
That's interesting. I mean, you could, when you say hit dice though, you mean healing hit dice, not
Yeah,
like their hit
yeah,
die.
yeah. I wouldn't like not like. I mean, you could do reduce your max hit points. You know,
Yeah.
effects in the game that do that without, uh, so it wouldn't be a new concept.
So what if the and I mean you could turn this into a disease just as easily, right? The groundwork. But what if
Mhm.
you were to take it where it does hit dice and damage, they lose hit dice. I would probably do a really small number, like D4 or something like that.
Mhm.
Like kind of like the shadow maybe. Just because you really don't have that many.
Right.
But then I would do that like if you're out of hit dice, then it actually starts doing your hit dice and damage to you. Like whatever
Yeah.
you would heal, it would be your hit die plus your con modifier in damage.
Yeah. I could definitely dig that. It's,
Um,
it's
with
kind of wasting away at you.
Yeah, and then like maybe you did something like create some kind of like if there isn't already, create some kind of like famine zombie or something. If they actually get killed by this, they come back up as and maybe they have an ability to do similar damage.
So it sounds like we've got the start of some kind of cool little supplement here.
We might Kigo Vito something from Tokens Works that could be fun is the dragon sickness turning the characters more greedy and violent after handling dragon's treasure. I did that in one of our newsletters. I made up I don't even remember. It was years ago at this point. And it was prior to or just after Ty Johnson coming on and volunteering on the website.
Oh yeah, so that was a long time ago.
And he's like, "You bastard! You made that. I think it was just a magical sickness. I didn't do it as a disease." Um, he's like, You made that magical illness." I was like, "Oh, did your character get it?" He's like, "No." So what it does is, like, you have to make saving throws, or you crave and lust after gold. And so he's like, the rest of the party was trying to kill me for my gold because they all had it and failed their saving throws. So I'll have to dig that up. And also I think it had it where it's like it was contagious, you could catch it, but it was kind of like a magical cold.
That's nasty.
At this point, I'd have to go back several hundred newsletters to find it.
Yeah,
Um,
we've made a lot of stuff. So
yeah, I'll have to see if it made its way into a master document. Maybe I'll put it in in the newsletter that this topic will be connected to. But yeah, it was definitely fun, and the problem is I think me and Ted have the same problem is that a lot of times we come up with these like fun cool ideas and we share them with the Nerdarchy community in one of these public forums. But then we never use them in our games because we each play in each other's games. So we're just like, oh, I guess I'll just do something new.
Yeah, there's a lot of content that we hand out to the world and don't use ourselves. But I mean, there's times that that kind of stuff can get recycled and brought to D&D in a castle, or run for one shots that we do here for fans. So there's definitely times that stuff, like if you save those little nuggets, they can be awesome.
So, kind of in the veins of Pestilence, I think we can talk about what we did this weekend at Wormfest,
Mm,
because I
I
feel
was
like Vast Grimm is a sci-fi horror hack of Morkborg, which is a very OSR style game. So if you like D&D, you would probably like it. It's like very rules light, in some ways dumbed down D&D, but I don't want to really say that because it sounds kind of derogatory because it doesn't really do it justice. It's just
right.
simplified, right? And it's a
Sure.
lot of fun. And the premise for Vast Grimm is the disciples of they opened up this vault and let out worms. WURMS worms, right? And basically they infect people, and then the worm will grow inside of them and eventually take them over, and they become the Grimm. Uh, so they're basically like parasites. Well, whenever you fight the Grimm, there's a chance that you get infected with a worm. And this past weekend was Wormfest. Basically, it's a free online RPG convention to promote Vast Grimm and really just to bring the community together, let people play the game. We had shared it out a bunch of places, and they had a virtual vending hall. So me and Ted took part. I did one of the panels. I think it was recorded. I don't know where that's going to go. Once we do know and it's up somewhere, we'll share it if you guys want to check it out. It was a lot of fun, and they were running great games of Vast Grimm and other things as well. But I just feel like Vast Grimm has a lot of themes that tie into this topic.
I would completely agree. The concept of infestation, I think, really is breathed heavy into a game like Vast Grimm.
Yeah.
We've played it a couple of times, here on the channel, so you can go and check it out. And it's, run by the creator of the game. And then, Dave and I, as well as others, are players. So you can definitely get a good flavor of what that game is. And it's entirely possible that our most recent game, we might revisit those characters in between those bastards and our next game. Fingers crossed. I'm hoping to make that happen because I thought
Well,
that was.
Brian did show interest, so that shouldn't be an issue. We'll see. Eller, I will get to your question in 1 second because I definitely have some answers for that. But first, I just want to say this stream is sponsored by Easy Roller Dice. And whether it's your first set of dice or your 1 millionth set of dice, Easy Roller Dice for all your dice rolling needs. Down in the description, there's a one-time coupon code for 25% off. We've been partnered with Easy Roller Dice for almost the beginning of Nerdarchy, so a very long time at this point. They're good people over there, and we've enjoyed working with them. So you can check out that link and discount code in the description. Also, both Ted and I will be having tables at D&D in a castle. So if you want to go on a luxury D&D vacation in the UK in a real castle and play Dungeons and Dragons with myself or Ted, you can do that. We have links in the description for that. Tables are already filling up, so you're going to want to reserve your spot and check it out. It is a blast. There's also a lot of awesome people there you'll get to hang out with and play D&D with.
I'll throw this out there at the event that we're going to be. Jeremy Crawford is going to be there running some one shots and what have you. So not only we have a chance to, well, not only if you sign up, will you game with either Dave or myself, but you'll have a chance to do a one shot with Jeremy Crawford. So that's pretty cool as well.
Yeah. Also, I just want to say if any of you folks are going to be PAX Unplugged, me and Ted will be there wandering around. Ted's always very easy to spot because because he's got his big Nerdarchy vest on and it's got the big N on it, and you can see him from a mile away. I trimmed up my beard and got rid of a lot of it, so I'm a little less. I'm a little harder to spot now because before I just looked like a Santa Claus incognito. but with I don't have as much beard as I did. It's getting to be around that time of year. It gets weird. Strange kids running up to you asking you for gifts. It's no good. So I got rid of some of the beard. With that, I want to get to Eller Marison's question. You feel pestilence and disease is more of a high level event. I'm starting a rookie players, and it all sounds a bit daunting for them. No, I don't. I feel like you can introduce it at first level, and here's why. You can start off with swarms of maggots and giant rats, right? That spread fear. Matter of fact, starting with rats, um, in the sewers and overrunning the city, or having a big problem with them in the city, and trying to uncover what's going on, seems like an awesome way to introduce it at low levels. As you get up to the top of tier 1, beginning of tier 2, I would say you could interject a cult of pestilence worshipping were rats if you wanted to, possibly. So I feel like there's a lot of things you could do. Before that, you could go with regular human cultists, which aren't too bad to deal with. So you can do it, and not only can you do it early levels, you can do it and have it so it lasts throughout the campaign, and it could culminate at the very end of your campaign with whatever that big bad, whether it's the pestilence, the first horseman of the apocalypse, or it's some kind of plague demon, or maybe even a dead god that has been brought back to life. That is a god of pestilence. So you could do some stuff.
I look at, and I'm not trying to dissuade anyone from going a full arc, but given how easy it is to cure disease, if you've got clerics and paladins in the party, I feel that disease is usually a low, first, second tier kind of thing, and then needs to like pair off to something else as you get into third and higher tier, because it's like, oh crap, there's 4 people that have diseases. The paladin goes boop, 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 done.
Sure, but like if you do that a lot, then that's a lot of resources, right? First
Oh,
of all,
completely.
First of all, it takes a four. To do that 4 times, it takes a 4th level paladin,
Yep.
and now they're like out of their lay on hands, and now you can start eating into the spell slots. Especially if you start doing it to NPCs, it's like, what do they do? Do they blow all of their resources on helping the NPCs, or they're like, oh, we're going to need this for something more, right?
Sure.
So
And
now you have moral quandaries in addition to actual combat encounters.
sure, and I'm all about trying to drain party resources to make the challengings the challenges a little bit more dynamic,
Yeah.
because they're trying to deal with.
Because I feel like you're kind of drawing an equivalency with disease and curse, but
Mhm.
curses are much more rare, where disease can be really common. But not only that, once it takes root, then it begins to spread,
Sure.
and it becomes more of a reoccurring problem. Where certain things like curses have been so neutered in 5e, and part of the thing that neuters them is the fact that they are kind of rare, and it's not like you're going to get a curse, have it removed, and then get it right back again.
Right. Yeah. But you got to wait till third level for. Sorry, you have to wait for third level spells in order to get rid
Yeah.
of curse. But third level characters have access to lesser restoration, and you can get rid of diseases.
Oh yeah, a first level paladin can cure a disease, I believe.
Second.
Or second, whenever they get access to
Yeah, lay on
lay on
hands is
hands.
second.
Yeah.
So second level paladin, third level cleric, like you start, being able to resolve that. And, sure, but it becomes something that, unless you're talking about there is lots of it, which diseases absolutely can and should be. But I've seen the parties be like, yep, it's dealt with.
Then the next wave of rats come.
Oh, sure. If you want it to really be laid thick, you can go that route. So
Yeah. Also, if you want to run a campaign and you want to really lean into the rats and maybe add some were rats, I highly recommend checking out Warhammer and Skaven.
Oh yeah.
Because they what are they called pestilence monks?
I don't know. It's
But they
been
have a whole order of monks that like they're like ninjas but with disease, and they use like disease grenades, and they're just nasty.
but fun.
Zombie, yeah, you can't save everyone, nor can you save them fast enough. So the moral aspect, who do you save? Who do you basically sentence to death is quite the challenge. Not only that, you can go deeper too, because you can then introduce these moral quandaries with NPCs that they have built relationships with, that they're friends with, that they care about, and and that's just it's going to deepen it, and also too like then that may also want them to do more than just like do a quick fix, and that's just it. Like casting spells and divine, lay on hands, they're quick fixes, right? But you might need something more than that. Like you might need to find something that can be administered by everyone, that can be maybe brewed, or either by a herbalist or with from an alchemist, that can be widely dispensed to protect more of the population, and safeguard them.
Right, and that's actually a great aspect of what the campaign could be if the players are interested in solving more than just the cause, but the effects.
Yeah. And then also, like, I feel like if you want to start associating certain kinds of creatures with your big bad, just because like you like their aesthetic or whatever, I keep coming back to were rats because I really kind of want to do were rats that actually do cause disease in addition to the curse of lycanthropy.
Mhm.
And maybe they're just carriers. Maybe they just kind of spread it. It doesn't really bother them because that's how the rats are anyway, right? Where basically they just have a vicious version of filth fever, because filth fever, that's the one the rats give, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, because I believe Adiugs also can give you filth fever, and they have a jacked up version of it. So there's definitely some wriggle room to play with there. And also Adiugs is one of my favorite monsters. I mean, I don't know. To me, the Adiug is essentially the trash monster from Star Wars,
Mm.
fleshed out a little bit more and made a bit meaner. So I'm all about the Adiugs. I'm pretty sure you fought quite a few of them throughout the years of my campaigns.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it's Adiugs are one of those things that they're just they're the typical trash monster. They're all kinds of crazy and what have you. Um, for whatever reason, my brain was going in the direction of carrion crawlers, but they don't actually seem to have anything disease related.
Nah, nah, they just had the paralytic poison. I mean, there are so many monsters. You got Adiug, Death Dog, Gas Spores. There's a bunch of variants on the Adiug too. We mentioned the rats. A Guthash. I don't even know what a Guthash is. Balazoo. I think that's a type of demon. Swarm of maggots. Swarm of rats. Blue Slad. Rudderkin. Rudderkin, I think, is another demon. Red Slad. Aboleths also have their own little disease they give you. So there's plenty of monsters to choose from in order to and at different levels too, or different tiers of play, I should say, in order to have interesting encounters you can kind of keep throwing at your players that are connected to this greater theme. Um, Regards from Iceland, by the way, middle of the night here. Well, thanks, Iceland, from reaching out to us from Iceland. Don't know if we've had an Iceland in the chat before or not, and in middle of the night, nonetheless.
Yeah, I actually have a friend from college who is moved out to Iceland, so I occasionally check in with him, but timetables are not exactly hours don't sync up all that much.
Yeah, that definitely happens. There is one thing that I forgot to mention. I wanted to mention if folks are going to be at PAX Unplugged, we plan on running Zoo Mafia, and the best way if you want to get in one of those games, you can sign up for the Zoo Mafia um, newsletter. Which one, we're going to reach out to people through that in order to let people know what our plan is once we come up with it. Also, we are going to you'll get the quick start rules for free that you can download from the newsletter. And also, when we update it, the quick start rules, which we know there's updates that are going to be needed for between now and whenever we make it an actual product, we're going to release those over there as well. So, and you'll know, and any other news with Zoo Mafia you can check out. I think I have a link in the description, or you can go to zoomafiarpg.com and sign up for that.
So Ellert wants to know if we ever permanently disabled players through pestilence, like lower strength scores or other stats.
Well, not in 5e, but I'm pretty sure over the course of us gaming, it has definitely happened in our other games, especially in like AD&D.
Yeah, in second and third edition, there were definitely damage that was done. I don't remember exactly whose character it was, but like I can certainly recall some kind of disease that affected somebody and it lowered their charisma score. Um,
Well, yeah, but also those iterations of D&D also had a lot more effects that were kind of save or suck, meaning if you failed your saving throw,
it just happened.
it just happened and there was nothing you could do about it. Or there were creatures that would lower your hit dice by level drain. It was a lot less forgiving.
And I mean, that's part and parcel of how that game was played at that point in time. I mean, the number of times that crap has happened, and you just have to live with the consequences. And now it's like, oh, most things really do have multiple failed saves to have any kind of detrimental effect. I mean, yeah, disintegration, that's still a good one.
There is a smattering of abilities that if you fail by 5 or more, something extra bad happens.
Yes.
But there's not many of them. I think you could count them on one hand. But I do like those. I know the Medusa is one of them. Where the way the petrification works now is it takes a couple failed saves, but if you fail by 5 or more, you just get petrified.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of the games that I watch, one of the game streams that I watch. There were a pair of characters, and they both failed, but one failed by more than 5. And it's like, all right, now now the player who was playing that character is now in in a new character while they're trying to see if they can find a way to bring them back.
Yeah, it's pretty inconvenient, and also stone is really heavy. So if they wish to move that player, that is
No,
challenging.
that character is still a statue where they.
Yeah. Eller, do you miss the ruthless spirit? Do you homebrew that kind of stuff in your 5e today, for example? Yes and no. Like, I guess there are some elements of it that were kind of fun, intriguing back then, but also like it's not really all that much fun to like one bad roll to decide the fate of your character. Um, and I feel like most people don't really enjoy that. And if they do, there's definitely games you can play for that. There's games where you can have your critical fumbles and something really bad happen, or if you get crit, it's not just damage; you might lose a limb or something. But I just remember, I don't know if it was the first Lord of the Rings game, Adventures of Middle Earth. I think it was called Adventures of Middle Earth, and it was like if you're using if you got crit with a bow, and you would then roll on a crit chart, and one of the results was and you take an arrow through the ear, instantly removes all earwax, and you're dead. So
I thought it was going to be, you lose the eye.
no, you're just dead. And like, if you spend a bunch of time making that character, investing into it, and be like one bad roll and that's it, time to make a new character. And also like, another aspect of that style of play for us was back then, like if you died, there's chances where the GM might just tell you, okay, make a level 1 character and start over regardless of the level of the party. There was a period of time where we like a bunch of characters died, so the GM felt generous because the party was like 8th or ninth level. So he's
Ninth.
like, come back at third. Which then the next encounter happened, pretty much wiped all of those characters out. And then like I think we might have got to a point later where like, all right, your character's dead, and you come back, and you're like 1 or 2 levels behind the rest of the party, and that was kind of your penalty.
Yeah. Yeah. The death tax
Yeah,
was harsh, and like we weren't. I don't know whether it was like the group decided this or what have you, but like it wasn't well, let's just hold on to all of this miscellaneous gear for whoever shows up. Like
yeah,
when the party died, their stuff was distributed amongst whoever was still alive.
yeah. That body didn't even hit the ground, and everyone already had their stuff.
But and you weren't handing it off to the new character that comes in. They weren't coming in with gear equivalent to what we had. So like it was in some ways like you scrimped and saved for every little item you could get, and if you survived, you had a better chance of surviving because you had somebody else's gear too.
Yeah. And like I'm not gonna say that we didn't have fun playing that way, but I don't know that I would have fun going back to playing that way,
No,
except for like, oh, let's do a short arc or a short campaign, and we're gonna use this other system, and we're gonna do it that way. Like we're
I
currently playing Shadow the Demon Lord, and we've had 3 character deaths in I don't know what session are we on.
we've had 5 character deaths. You've is it 5 or 4? I don't know. It's a lot. You've lost one. Oh, James didn't lose 3. He almost lost one. Um,
Yeah,
but
so
yeah,
I think it was just 3. He lost 2 because he's on his 3rd character. He lost 2. I lost 1. And I don't know. We were like 6 sessions into that game or something.
7.
7 sessions in, and also like we don't like the RGM in that game is not like super punitive or really out to get us. It's just kind of the nature of that game.
It's the choices that we make and the very nature of the game. So like you do have to
Yeah.
play a little bit smarter as a player, not necessarily.
Debatable.
Well,
me,
but
me and James do not really prescribe to that method, and we just
sure,
kind of do what we think is fun and let the bodies hit the floor.
sure. So for my answer for Ellert's question is, I tend to play more in the spirit of 5e. There's definitely ways within the 5e rule set to challenge players without just delivering, fatal encounters and what have you. If I want to kill a character, there's easy ways to do it. Like, oh well, all I got to do is get a character there and get enough attacks to drop them and hit them twice more, and they're gone, they're dead.
Well,
And
we
that's
played in a game, right? We played in a game with Esper, and the way he does it, if you drop to 0 hit points
mm-hmm.
and enemies are around and they are not engaged in combat, they finish you off.
Oh
There are
yeah,
no death saves. so,
yeah.
so there's definitely people that play like that.
So, but I mean, and that's style's okay if you enjoy it. I don't particularly feel the need as a GM to go down that road. I care more about the story, and as long as my players feel like their characters are being challenged, mission accomplished. I don't need to be like, all right, who am I killing tonight?
Yeah.
Just
So,
not an aspect of the game I look for.
all right. So, Eller, you feel a bit scared to kill players. For instance, should you let a session pass without them, resurrect them immediately at a lower level character? So first of all, like in our Shadow of the Demon Lord game, our GM is like, if your character dies, I will get you in as soon as possible, and
As soon as you have another character ready, he's going to get you in the game.
he's going to get you in the game. And I wholly prescribe to that. Like, it's bad enough you lost a character, that sucks. Making someone sit there and wait to play is lame, in my opinion. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a game. We're playing for fun. I know it's narrative and we're telling stories as well, but in my experience, no one's gonna care that much about that. The other thing is, like, I don't go out of my way to not kill characters. I roll my dice in the open. Whatever happens, happens. Um, and it's whatever the player agency is. I also don't go out of my way to kill them either. So, but a conversation that we've had at the beginning of games when we've had our session zeros often involves, do characters die in this game? How do we feel about character death? Not in every session zero, but in different games. We've definitely talked about it. I think we did discuss that in our Shadow of the Demon Lord, and we decided it is the part of the nature of that game. So we were more than willing to let the characters fall where they may. Um, and I feel like this is a relevant conversation to have at the beginning of any campaign. We're huge proponents for doing session zeros, even if you don't do a session zero. Character mortality is something you should discuss with your players. Like, let them know, like, if characters die in the game, they do die in the game, and also discuss what happens when they die. Is it a possibility they can come back? Is it, you're just going to roll up with a new character? How long is it going to take to get in when you have a new character? Are you going to do, well, you have to wait a session, you died, and then you get to bring back your character resurrected, or you get to put your new character in, or you're like, hey, look, you're here to play the game. Hopefully you're playing with your friends. As your friend, I want you to have fun. So as soon as you got another character, we'll get you in right away, so you get playing.
I mean,
So
and this is a joke that's happened, across numerous gaming groups. But the first time a character died at in my fifth edition game, he did that thing where he literally erased a letter on the character sheet, and he came in as his character's brother.
yeah,
Terry's, it's Terry's, or vice versa. And it was like, all right, this is comical, and we got him
yeah,
in pretty darn quickly. But it's
yeah.
like,
I feel like you got to ask yourself, like, when you want to when you're trying to like penalize the player for their character dying, like, what are you trying to do? What is the point to that? Like, and we've been there, we've done that. Like, that used to be how we kind of played. And in hindsight, we're like, well, that's not a lot of fun. So, and especially depending on your group dynamic, like, a lot of our groups have limited time for playing games. Like, a lot of our games we play once a month with different groups, and some of those people only play in that game. So I would hate to be like, oh, this is the only game that you're going to play this month. You happen to die at the beginning of the beginning of the session. Tough titty for you. That's what you should have played better, or whatever.
maybe I'll get you in next week or next session. You should have rolled better. You should have made better choices. You should have known what I was thinking. Like, all of these things are,
Arbitrary.
dude, just let them get in. Who cares about how it fits into the story? Find a way to make it happen. And
I
some players are smart and will give, like, hey, what about this? And they'll give you a way to make it happen. Others, you can just hand wave and just be like, yeah, you just happen to be standing in the next field over and you see this going on. Oh, look, let me come over and say hi.
Yeah, I remember literally for the Scarlet Sisterhood game I ran, like, I knew the next session one of the players weren't going to be there, but I didn't know going into the session, so it wasn't last minute, but it also wasn't something I could plan because of how the session ended. And like, so I like racked my brain, tied myself in knots, coming up with a narrative reason why they weren't going to be there, and figuring that out. Fast forward to the next week, the next session, we start playing, and like I kind of get engrossed what's going on. They get what's engrossed what's going on. Totally forget to do the thing narratively to to justify the other character not being there. No one ever said a word. No one cared. No one in the chat said a word. Like at the end of the day, like these things that people get these big hangups on, I just don't think people really care that much. They just want to play and
Yeah,
have fun.
it's not as important. If you're looking for number one, a great comedic uh RPG movie, check it
Yeah.
first because they do it perfectly. The character dies, they literally roll into the next scene, and the dude is just standing there and is like, "Oh, are you on a quest? Yes, I am. Would you like to join us? Yes, sir." And like he just gets into the back of the line and they just keep on going.
I think like for us, one of the early because there's definitely been lots of times that narratively I just figure it out and make it work for the
Mhm.
story.
Sure.
Um, and but one of the things I will say, you don't really need to do that, but you can do it if you want to. Whatever works for you and your gaming group. But if you don't do it, I promise you, the world will not end. But I think one of the earlier times that we ended up doing this was because we had one of our friends. We knew he wasn't going to be reliable, but he wanted to play, and we wanted him at our table. So we came up with a cursed magic item that I believe Ted's character was actually the character who carried the item, and I think it was like some kind of barbarian shaman or something would pop out of this amulet shield, whatever it was, and he would be there randomly for no reason at all, and not be there for randomly for no reason at all, just at the whims of this curse, and that's how he just would explain that character in and out of the game.
Yep.
Uh, and I will see. There used to be a Twitch channel called TV. Timmy TV or Tim TV Timmy, something like that. I played in a one shot, or not a one shot, but I played like a short arc as a guest player, and I know they did the same thing with a gem, and like whoever couldn't make it just got sucked into this gem that session,
Hmm.
and for whatever reason they couldn't get rid of the gem nor keep it from randomly sucking them in, and like the running joke is every time someone gets sucked in, they would empty the lint from their pockets, and they were beginning to make a lint beanbag chair in there, so that whoever gets stuck in there has some place to sit.
Yeah, the dwarven barbarian that was traveling with us, the consummate nerd that I was, never missed a session. So it was like, well, we'll give it to Ted because Ted's always here. And the elf was forced to carry this disc that had a skull emblazoned upon it as the undead slayer. And this dwarf, every once in a while, who did not get along with my elf in any way, shape, or form, come thrusting out. Man, it was so annoying when that thing came out because he hated me. But it was a lot of fun
As you should for a dwarf and an elf, especially back in those days.
back in those days.
Yeah, so like you can invest as much into plot devices or story devices as you want to, but we've also found over the years, if we just don't say anything at all, no one ever cares. For the most part, I find my players are all just really happy to be playing. We don't like, I will say our group, but other people's groups can do whatever they like, doesn't like to play or NPC somebody else's character, because we don't want to have things happen to their characters when they're not there to have something to do with it. Generally, they also don't get any benefits when they're not there. Um, they don't get penalized, but whatever the treasure the party finds, that's amongst the party that found it to distribute how they see fit. As GMs, both me and Ted are very hands off with that. That's party business. Um, and we also don't do XP. We don't really do milestones either. We just award levels when we feel like giving them out. Matter of fact, in my very last game, my players were pestering me for a level, as they do every single session. But also they were down a player, so I was like, sure, you guys could take. You guys can take a level, and they did end up having an encounter that probably would have been a lot tougher had they not leveled up.
Yeah, those extra hit points made a big difference for those people that were
Taking
getting.
a beating. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it wasn't, didn't matter all that much. I didn't use a lot of my sorcery points, even though I probably should have or could have. I didn't get hit at all. So fantastic. Sometimes it helps to be crawling on the wall.
Sometimes it does help to crawl on a wall.
All
So
right, so
yeah.
we're
So what was that?
getting down to our last 5 minutes. I don't know if we want to get more into, you know, pestilence and disease, or if you have any other business to take care of.
I think we covered all the business things. Hopefully, we'll see some of you folks at PAX Unplugged. That would be awesome.
Yeah, please, let us know. Would love to, be able to say hi. Um, I should be carrying my typical book, so if you want me to sign something of yours, that's cool. But I also have something that I like to get, fans of Nerdarchy to sign, whether you want to just write a name or you want to write a message. I essentially started a signature book. It's a lot of fun.
We were getting messages, things like, "Why couldn't you be XP to level 3?" I love you, Jacob.
Yeah, sorry, still can't be Jake.
Yeah. So, do you have any other thoughts on Pestilence?
So after I started, looking down the wrong rabbit hole of carrion crawler, the tentacle monster that does have a disease is the Adiog. So I've got some brain power in motion behind the scenes as to what I'm going to create for my my newsletter on this topic, which does wind up on the website. But you should sign up for our newsletter. It's a great way to be aware of everything that's going on, and I will.
We also get early access to, like, it comes out a week. I don't know if it's a week or 2 weeks before. I guess it's
It's
a
like
week.
EKs.
So
Um, but I've got a solid idea as to what I'm going to create, and if all goes well, I'll actually do it tomorrow to have it done, so I can be ahead of schedule.
yeah, I probably, I don't know if I'll ever be ahead of schedule again. I recently, so I've been doing Nerdarchy full time for about 5 years, and I recently had to go back to getting a Muggle job. So we have a Patreon in case you guys are interested. Um, but yeah, so I'm still trying to figure out, like, my schedule and stuff. Because
So with that, I do believe we have an announcement that we should be making.
which announcement? It's eluding me.
So we're going to be moving this chat to Sunday nights.
Oh, that one. I thought about it beforehand and then I forgot.
So if you happen to be, still lurking around, I believe it's going to be starting, this upcoming Sunday.
Yeah, this upcoming Sunday. It's just we're moving up Sundays instead of Mondays. 8 o'clock, same time, same. Everything's pretty much the same. It's just we're gonna do it on a Sunday night instead.
So hopefully that opens up things for some more people and doesn't interfere with those that like to join us here.
For our time travelers in different time zones. Yeah, I feel like people are usually ahead of us though, so it just pushes. It just pushes. Sunday just pushes into Monday for them instead of Monday pushing into Tuesday. Not sure if that's better or worse, or just a lateral motion. So, what are you thinking of working on for the newsletter? Give us a little teaser here, Ted.
Oh, you want a teaser? All right. So at first I was like, all right, a carrion crawler's a 2, an ogre's a 2. How cool would it be to, mix, an ogre that's basically been fused to a carrion crawler? The carrion crawler doesn't have diseases. So I was like, well, what if I mix the ogre with the Atiog, and instead of
Oh,
big belly, like it's bulbous and has this massive mouth, and has like the arms and doesn't have 3 legs, but it's got the ogre arms and the tentacles coming off of this thing.
yeah. I
I'm,
won't. I
I'm
won't make any off-colored comments about the three-legged ogre. Um,
so
that is funny. But at first, I was like, Ted, where is Ted going with this? there in D&D Beyond, there is ogres that have carrion crawler heads grafted to their bodies,
Yes, yes.
and
The
instead of ogre heads. Matter of fact, you guys squared off against a bunch of those.
yeah, there's a carrion ogre is what it is what's there. So I'm gonna make the
Pestilence ogre.
Agriug or something along those long lines.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, it's happening. It's just
I'm
I got
digging it. As long as it's got tentacles, I'm in.
I'll leave that comment alone too.
Give him an eye stalk, some tentacles. Yeah, man. Digging
You
it.
know,
Get
I
weird.
think there could be some you know, some fun little thing going on there. Perhaps this one happens to have, you know, its own, you know, nuance as to where it came from or whatnot. It's still in development, but I'm solidly gonna make that happen because you know, I can picture what this thing looks like and I'm kind of scared of it.
Oh wow. So ogres find it gross and audios find it not gross enough. It's just a total outfit. It's a total outcast and misfit, and it just feels sad all the time. So now it wants to hurt people.
Pretty much.
So with that, we're just past the hour mark. Thanks everyone for showing up. I appreciate it, and thanks for coming all the way from Iceland to hang out with Ted's basement. We will be back tomorrow night with those bastards, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, and then 12 p.m. Eastern time. Uh, we will be talking to, I think it's games of design of games over on the over here on the live chat as a guest. So come check us out, and until next time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.